What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back, excuse me, to the channel. Now, with the recent ban list having just dropped, a lot of decks took a massive hit. Obviously, Sprites took a big hit, although with Ronin Totem banned and with Substitute back on the list, I'm pretty sure Substitute might be a potential candidate to be in the deck. So it's a possibility. You know, cards like Red Reboot got banned. Cards like Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, got hit. Crystron Hulk Vibrax got hit. Mystic Mind is still in the format for some fucking reason, and because that Chaos Ruler is banned, I realized there was a deck. There was a deck at my disposal that was running the card, and I had to take it out and do a little bit of a cleanup crew, if you will. And that deck is Lightsworn. Now I think this might be the only deck that that was running it. I'll have to take a look. But I figured, you know what? It was time for a massive upgrade, so I figured why not do it. So I'm going to be bringing to you guys my updated Lightsworn deck for my updated Lightsworn deck profile for you guys. It might not seem that I did anything, but once you guys get a look at it on my Instagram, which you guys could definitely can check out, link will be in the description below, you guys will know how unique this deck is. So I switched up a few cards, you know, took some out, put some in, and realized that the performance engine that I was running originally, you don't really need it because it's too much of a brick. You don't need that. You don't need those bricks in your hand. And so I figured, let's switch it up. So hopefully you guys are ready for this deck profile. If you guys are, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all my social media. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. Let's get straight into it, kicking these off. Obviously, I am as always running 3 copies of Judgment Dragon. Obviously, this is by far one of the biggest board wipes you could ever have in the deck. Once you have at least 4 or more Lightsworns in your grave with different names, obviously you can special summon him, and then just pay 1,000, clear the board, and you're pretty much just off to the races there. Basically, you're able to, with Judgment Dragon, you're basically ensuring that you're able to get game depending on what the board state looks like. So 3 copies of Judgment Dragon. Next up, I am running a single copy, as always, of Blacklisted Soldier Envoy the Beginning. I know some people probably think that I should have should be running Chaos Emperor Dragon, but the problem with Chaos Emperor Dragon is that it got errata. So the original effect, I actually want to check it out. Give me a second, guys. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Here we are, Envoy the End. No, I don't want trading card mint. Suck the dick. No. I know I shouldn't have said that, but that's okay. Here we are, finally. Finally, okay, so the original, so let's go errata. Shoutouts to Yugipedia. Finally able to check out the original. Okay, so the original effect. So the original effect of Chaos Emperor reads: this card can only be spell summoned by removing a light and a dark in your grave from play. Pay 1,000 of your life points. Pay 1,000 of your life points to send all cards in both players' hands and on the field to the grave, and inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent's life points for each card that was sent to the grave by this effect. It was not a once per turn. This, with the new version, it's now, you know, it basically became a once per turn. So it's not as good as the original, if you will. So that's why I decided to stick with the BLS instead of the CED, because with CED it'll miss timing and it'll miss timing, and you don't really want that as much. So I basically just decided to stick with the BLS, because the new errata says cannot be normal summon or set, must be spell summoned from hand by banishing a light and a dark from your grave. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000, send as many cards in both players' hands and on the field as possible to the grave, then inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent for each card sent to the opponent's graveyard by this effect. You cannot activate other cards or effects during the turn you activate this card's effect. That's why it's not as good as BLS. It's basically because of that. So that's why. But still, BLS is actually really good because not only can you potentially banish one of your opponent's monsters, but if you wanted to, you could also give it a second attack. So it's kind of like a cyber twin dragon with legs, if you will, which is really cool. Next up, 3 copies of Wolf Lightsworn Beast. Moving on into the Lightsworn. So again, we have 3 Wolf. This is basically like the only brick that you would want to have. This and Felice, which I'll get to her in here in a second. But if it's sent from the deck to your graveyard, then it basically treats itself as a monster reborn, and you can just summon it to your field. And when it is summoned, it's basically a 2100 beat stick. So not much else to say about that. Plus, what's cool about Wolf is that if you equip it with Lightsworn Saber, which I am running in the deck, it basically becomes a damn near 3,000 vanilla, to be honest, which that's actually pretty good in my opinion. Next up, I am running 2 copies of Garroth Lightsworn Warrior. I ended up cutting down the Raiden and the Felice down to 2 because I needed to make room for a second Garroth and a second Lila, because I realized Garroth is basically a pot of greed, which is it's essentially a pot of greed, which is really good. So Garroth's effect reads: each time a card or cards is sent from your deck to the grave by the effect of a Lightsworn monster you control, except this card, send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave, then draw 1 card for each Lightsworn monster sent to the grave by this effect. So what's cool? So what's cool about this is that if you have both Garroth and Raiden on board, activate Raiden's effect, and let's say you send Felice and let's say Wolf to your graveyard. Basically, you get to send the top 2 cards from your deck to your graveyard, and then you draw a card for each Lightsworn monster sent to the grave by the effect of by Gareth's effect, which is really nice. So it could potentially be. So you could potentially draw up to like 4 cards, which is a double pot of greed, which is just really good. Raiden on the other hand, again, basically you send the top 2 cards of your deck to your graveyard, and if any of them are Lightsworn monsters, he gains an additional 200 attack, which he can go up to 2100. His attack can go potentially up to like 4,000 for all we know. Which is it possible? No, it's not. You would think that, but it can basically go. His attack can go up to 2,100, which is not too bad. But you're only using Raiden for the mill, not just for the mill effect, but you want to use him as synchro material to go into cards, like say Starfire Little Omega, Michael the Arc Lightsworn, or even also Ancient Pixie Dragon, all of which I am running in the extra deck, and another plot twist, which I'll get to once we get into the extra deck, which again is really nice. Then of course 2 copies of Lila. This is basically your MST for the whole deck. So the effect reads: you can target 1 spell or trap your opponent controls. This card's battle position cannot be changed until the end of your next turn. Also change this card you control from face-up attack to face-up defense, and if you do, destroy that target. Once per turn during your end phase, send the top 3 cards of your deck to your graveyard. So basically, it gives you a way to it basically lets you pop any back row that your opponent may have, switch its battle position, and if you activate a card like say Ancient Forest, which I am actually running a single copy of in the deck, basically its battle position gets switched back to attack mode, which is really nice. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, do I even care about the Ancient Forest? No, not really. I really don't. I think I'm just gonna keep it the way it was originally. I apologize, guys. I think I'm gonna. I was gonna keep it that way, but I realized it's not that good. So I think. Let's see. Let's do it that way. There we go. There we go. Sorry guys. I had to switch it up again. But again, Lila is basically your MSC for the whole deck. 2 copies of Felice. Now I know. I'm sure you guys are probably wondering, wait, why 2? Shouldn't you be running 3? Normally I would, but I needed to make room, obviously, for the second Gareth and the second Lila. That's why I cut the 2 4-star tuners to 2, because I needed to make that room. Plus you really don't use Felice for its destruction effect, because the second effect reads, because the third effect of her card reads: you contribute this card, then target a monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, then send the top 3 cards of your deck to your graveyard. Obviously, you don't want to do that. You want to use Felice for her tuning power to go into, you know, the Sign Frame or Lord Omega. Excuse me. You know, the Michael, and of course the one of the 2 ancient pixie dragons that I'm running in the extra deck. So, but still, she can potentially break boards depending on what your opponent's board looks like. Felice could potentially could potentially break boards, but you really don't want to use her to break boards. Really, you want to use your extra deck to break boards, especially with what I have in the lineup. Woohoo! You guys are not gonna believe what the extra deck looks like. But moving on, we have 2 copies of Lumina Lightsworn Summoner. This card is actually really good because she basically acts as a 2nd and 3rd Monster Reborn, which I am running in the deck. So you basically have, let's see, 3 Wolves, so that's 3 Reborns, 2 Felice, that's 5, 2 Lumina, that's 7, 8 Monster Reborns. Literally 8 Monster Reborns. Yeah, basically it's 8. You basically have 8 Monster Reborns, 2 of them obviously being Lumina, because her effect reads, once per turn you can discard a card, target 1 level 4 lower Lightsworn in your grave, special summon it, and then once per turn during the end phase, it sends the top 3 cards of your deck to your grave. Obviously, Felice and Lumina basically give you Michael and of course ancient Pixie Dragon on board. Pixie Dragon is kind of a weird card, which I'll get to her once we get into the extra deck. But again, Lumina, basically a Monster Reborn, not much else to say about that. We got the 1 Minerva, which is kind of an odd card to run, but what's cool about her is that if you were to normal summon her, you basically get to add Judgment Dragon to your hand, which is really cool. And funny thing, and the most hilarious thing about Minerva is that if you were running her, if you were running a small Lightsworn package in a Blue Eyes deck, you could actually add Blue Eyes to your hand, which is hilarious. Which is actually kind of hilarious. But her effect reads, when this card is normal summoned, you can add a light dragon from your deck to your hand whose level is less than or equal to the total number of Lightsworn monsters with different names in your grave. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the grave, send the top card of your deck to the grave. During each of your end phases, send the top 2 to your grave. So again, she's basically your Judgment Dragon Rhoda for the whole deck. Helps you thin out the deck to so you can see, so you can potentially see, seek out your Garroth, Raiden, your Lila, your Lumina, or even the next, or even one of the 2 copies of the next 3 cards I'm going to talk about here right now. And the first 2 is obviously Lumina Twilight Sworn Shaman. Yes, I'm running a very small Twilight Sworn package, which again is 2 Lumina and 2 Lila. Lumina is actually really interesting because while Lumina Lightsworn Summoner is a Monster Reborn, Twilight Sworn Shaman is basically a different dimension reincarnation. So what that means is that her effect reads, once per turn, you can banish 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand or grave, then target 1 of your banished Lightsworn monsters except this card, special summon it. Once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster's effect is activated, send the top 3 cards of your deck to your grave. So again, she's basically a different dimension reincarnation, which is the opposite of Lumina Lightsworn Summoner's effect, which is a Monster Reborn, which is actually pretty nuts. Pretty nuts, especially if you banish, like say Wolf off of some effect. I don't know. I'd say the BLS Link or something like that. then you can go ahead and summon it, which is really cool. Lila basically is a another version of the original Lila. So her effect reads once per turn when a spell, trap, or effect is activated, which is a quick effect, you can banish a Lightsworn monster from your hand or grave. Then target a face-up spell, trap on the field, destroy it. Once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster effect is activated, send the top 3 to your grave. So basically, you're going to be doing a lot of banishing off of Lila's effect. So this would make Luminous effect live really easily, and it will give you access to go into even more of your plays, whether it's more of your Link plays, any of your Xyz plays, your Synchro plays, whatever you may have at your disposal, it will be live really quickly. And then to round out the monsters, I am running 2 copies of Diana the Light Spirit. Basically, she's just a Cyber Dragon, which is pretty cool. So her effect reads: cannot be normal summon or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing a light from your grave. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, gain 1,000. So obviously, do you see that effect all that often? No. Excuse me, no, because your opponent is gonna end up, because it's either your opponent is gonna end up destroying it, or B, you're gonna be using the monster as Xyz material or even Link material for, like say a Minerva the Exalted Lightsworn or a Nightmare Phoenix or whatever. But moving on into the spells, for the 1-ups, we got the one call by, because obviously hand traps can be a pain in the fucking ass. We got the one instant fusion, where it basically just again gives you a 5-star or lower fusion from to your field. Monster Reborn, because it's Monster Reborn, and then the Harpy's Feather Duster, obviously because you want more back row removal. You want to try and get rid of your opponent's floodgates as quickly as you can. That's why I chose to run 2 copies of Lila Lightsworn Sorceress and Lila Twilight Sworn Enchantress and the Harpy's Feather Duster, because they're all back row removal, and they basically help you, ensure that your plays actually do go through before you can even make them, which is really nice. And then for the rest of the spells, we got three Solar Recharge, which is sort of like a Graceful Charity of sorts, but a little bit different. Discard 1 Lightsworn monster to your grave, draw 2, and then send the top 2 to your graveyard from your deck, which is really cool. We got the 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. This is basically your Rhoda for the whole deck, which is really nice. We got the 3 Lightsworn Saber, which not only can give your Lightsworn monster 700 attack, but whenever it's sent from the deck to the grave, you can target another Lightsworn monster you have on board, and you can equip this card to whatever monster you may have at your disposal, which could be a Wolf, could be a Garroth, could be a Raiden, Felice. It could even also be, I believe you can also use this on Michael as well, which is really cool. And then we are running 2 copies of a brand new card. Now, originally I was running 2 copies of Ancient Forest to pair off with the Lila, but I realized that you don't need Ancient Forest all that much. You need this card, Realm of Light. And you guys are wondering, what does this card do? I've never heard of this card before. That is because it's an old card, and I believe it was seen in the Lightsworn Structure deck, if I remember correctly. So its effect reads. Each time a card or cards is sent from your deck to the grave, place 1 shine counter on this card. All Lightsworn monsters gain 100 attack for each shine counter on this card. If this card would be destroyed by a card effect, remove 2 shine counters from this card instead. So basically, you're gonna be because then you're gonna be doing a lot of sending, to your graveyard off of the effects of Charge, and of course the Solar Recharge, as well as Garroth and Raiden and whatnot. this card, Realm of Light, is gonna make all of your Lightsworn monsters some beefy motherfuckers. And basically, this card just ensures that you're able to maintain the game state and be able to have game on board. But again, it all depends on what your hand looks like. That's why I chose not to run the terraforming, because of the fact that you've got the Solar Recharge, you've got the Garroth, which they're essentially your draw cards, and they give you and they let you basically see your one of your two copies of Realm of Light. So that's why I chose not to run the terraforming. But moving on into the traps, we have 6 of them. We have 2 Lightsworn Barrier. This basically just ensures that this card just basically ensures that your opponent's monsters cannot attack. So it's sort of like a really bad like shadow spell, not shadow spell. I would probably say like a really bad like gravity bind, if you will. It's a bad gravity bind, but it's a little bit better than gravity bind in my opinion. And then to round up the main deck, we got 2 Solemn Strike and 2 Solemn Warning, because obviously you don't want your opponent to be summoning anything at all. Moving on into the extra deck, I am gonna go from Links to Fusion to show off what the extra deck would be capable of when you play the deck. So first up, obviously I've got the Nightmare package. So we got the Cerberus, the Phoenix, and the Unicorn as well. We got the Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion. Not the best card to run, but it's actually not too bad as well. So it says that it requires 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types. So obviously you've got so many different types. With the Lightsworns, you got Beast Warrior, Warrior. You've got Spellcaster, and of course I believe you got others as well. I think Dragon was the other one. Let's see. If you were running any of the other monsters, yeah, so it's Dragon, Fairy, Beast Warrior, Spellcaster, I believe, Beast as well, and also Beast as well, plus Dragon, Fairy and Warrior, all you know for Michael, Minerva, and of course Curious as well, being a warrior as well. So yeah, you got quite a few different types, if you will. Let's see here. Her effect reads, if this face-up card is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of her opponent's card effect, while its owner controls it, you can target a card in your grave, add it to your hand. You can only use, each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is linked summoned, you can send 1 card from your deck to your graveyard. If a card or cards is sent from your deck to the grave by an effect, send the top 3 cards of your deck to your grave. So she basically acts as a Fool's Burial to send the Wolf or the Felice to your graveyard, so you can then summon one of them to your graveyard, and then just go into a Raiden, and then overlay them into, like say a Minerva, a Time Thief Redoer, or just sink them off into a Sign for Lord Omega, and a new card that, again, once I get to the extra deck, you guys will know how broken the card is. But again, she's essentially your Fool's Burial, which is really nice. We got the Blacklusted Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. I feel like they should have just called it Blacklusted Soldier of Chaos, which would have made a lot more sense, but it is what it is. He's basically BLS. He's basically Envoy, just better, if you will, in my honest opinion. And then of course we have Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Obviously, if you have a bunch of monsters that are cramping the board, and you know that they're not going to do a whole lot, or their effects have already been used up, then definitely go into this card, because this card is a fucking house. And my brother just texted me. Give me a second, guys. Let's see. Sorry guys, there was a hair on my phone. Had to get rid of it, and my brother literally texted me. There we go. Anyway, so Underworld Goddess is basically the counter, not the counter. I would say the counterpart to Appaloosa, but this card is so much better than, is a lot better than Appaloosa. So Underworld Goddess effect reads: you can also use one monster your opponent controls as material to link summon this card. If this card is link summoned, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. This link summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that special summons a monster from the grave, negate the activation. So it basically just ensures that your opponent cannot activate Monster Reborn. So if they activate Monster Reborn, it's gone. It gets negated really quickly. So that's why I chose to run her instead of Appaloosa, because Appaloosa really doesn't do anything. It just lowers its own attack to negate. So that really doesn't do much. But Underworld Goddess, she's a 3K beat stick on board. So once she's on board, you basically have an Omni negate, if you will. So that's pretty cool. Next up for the Xyz monsters, we got the one Minerva, because obviously Minerva is just a house. Detach a material from its card, send the top 3 cards of your deck to your grave, then draw cards equal to the number of Lightsworn cards sent to the grave by this effect. If this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to your grave. Then you can destroy cards on the field up to the number of Lightsworn cards sent to the grave by this effect. Basically, it basically just pops your opponent's board, which is really nice. We got the Time Thief Redoer, because you want to try and maximize having a good amount of board wipes for Zeus. I am actually running Zeus in the extra deck, sorry, because Zeus is a fucking house. Now for the Synchros, you guys will be surprised by what's in here. So for the Synchros, I have 2 copies of Ancient Pixie Dragon. So if you have Realm of Light on board, and you didn't, or rather, if you have Realm of Light in your hand and you summoned Ancient Pixie Dragon, you can then activate Realm of Light, and then Ancient Pixie Dragon's effect would then trigger, which basically gives you a draw. It lets you draw a card, and her other effect reads: once per turn, you can target a face-up, attack position monster on the field, destroy that target, and there must be a face-up field spell on the field to activate and resolve the effect. So if you were going up against, like, say, just like a random example, I'll say Paleo Frogs, because I believe Paleo Frogs would be running, what was it, Forest? I think. Let's see. No. Wetlands. I think it's Wetlands. Yeah. So let's say, for example, you were going up against Paleo Frogs, and let's say they activated let's say they activated Wetlands by triggering Metaverse. Let's say that. You basically get to not only draw a card, but not only that, but once per turn, the effect reads: once per turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field, destroy that target. So if your opponent has, let's say I'll say a frog that was face-up in attack position, it basically gets destroyed. It's basically your trap hole for the whole deck, which is really nice. We got the Michael. We've got the one Michael, the Arc Lightsworn, which is kind of a unique card, but he is pretty cool. So the effect reads: once per turn, you can pay 1,000 to target one card on the field, banish that target. When this card is destroyed, you can target any number of other life monsters in your grave, shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, gain 300 life points for each return card. Once per turn during your end phase, send the top 3 to from your deck to your graveyard. So basically, again, he basically just breaks boards, banishes back row. You've got so much removal, it's just absolutely insane. And then of course we got the one Ciphering Little Omega, just in case if you do banish and you don't have a way to re-summon those banished monsters, then Omega just ensures that they get sent to your graveyard, so you can summon them off the effect of Lumina Lightsworn Summoner, or of course the Monster Reborn. And then of course the replacement of the Chaos Ruler. And you guys are wondering, what is that? It is Draco Berserker of the Tenny. I didn't realize how broken this card was, but when I had a closer look at it, I realized, holy shit, this card is actually pretty fucking good. So it's a generic tuner, non-tuner synchro. So it's pretty generic. His effect reads: when your opponent activates a monster's effect, which is a quick effect, you can banish it. If this attacking card destroys an effect monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack, and it can make a second attack on a monster during this battle phase. Basically he's basically like Envoy and Soldier of Chaos. It acts as a Cyber Twin Dragon, and it's a way to, and he can easily just banish any monster that your opponent any monster that your opponent may have on board that triggered its effect, if you will. So let's say for example you have Draco on board, and you have let's say you have Lumina on board. You can then you can go ahead and activate Lumina's effect, ditch your card, summon summon the Raiden, and your opponent activates I'll say Boardload Savage Dragon, which is still a pretty busted card in our format. Basically, Draco can banish your opponent's Boardload Savage, and they can't use it. So it's a pretty good card. And then for the instant fusion target, we got the Invoke Canoga to help further your plays of the synchros and whatnot. But I think what I'm gonna do, if I were to do another update on this deck, like if we were to get new Lightsworn support, I'm definitely gonna have to cut the Canoga instant fusion. The reason being is because it's because of the fact that you already have a bunch of 4-star monsters, in the Wolves, the Gyarados, the Lilas. You don't really need any more 4-stars unless if you were running, and of course the Twilight Sword Enchantress and the Dianas. Unless if you were going to use Canoga, to exceed summon or whatever, then it is what it is. But still, it's not too bad. And then for my side deck, I actually decided to switch it up a bit. I've got the 2 copies of Gadarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, obviously because of the fact that Fluundries is still in the format. It's still broken, so Gadarla can just out the Stormwind Barrier statue and ensure that you don't get FTK'd, if you will, which is really cool. Plus, if you were to summon Gadarla to your opponent's board and they only had had the Stormwind Barrier statue, you can activate Solemn Strike, pay the 15, and Gadarla gets sent to your graveyard, which gives you access to just pop off and go for game, which is kind of hilarious. Then of course we got the 2 Ash Blossom and the 2 Ghost Veil because they work hand in hand, which is really nice. We got the Decode Talker and the Axis Code Talker because of the fact that Axis Code Talker gives you a bunch of board wipes, which is pretty nice. So with Axis Code Talker you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 board wipes with the 6 links that are already in the extra deck, plus the Decode Target that's already in the side. That's 7 board wipes, which is pretty insane. Then of course we got some more back row removal in the form of 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Not much else to say about that. We got 3 Breakthrough Skill. I decided to bring it up to 3 because Breakthrough Skill is just a nutty card. Not much else to say about it, but I will read its effect. Target a face-up effect monster your opponent controls. That face-up monster your opponent controls has its effects negated until the end of the turn. During your turn, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave and target a face-up effect monster your opponent controls. That target has its effects negated until the end of this turn. So it basically is a much more cheaper version of Imperm. So if you don't have access to Imperm because it's too expensive, Breakthrough Skill is one of the best one of the best replacements in existence. That and Forbidden Chalice. But Breakthrough Skill is basically a double Imperm. So it's as if you have 6 Imperms in the deck, which is really nice. And then we have 2 copies of Zing Zang Hu, because obviously you don't want your opponent to activate their floodgates, and Zing Zang Hu just ensures that those floodgates do not trigger. So that is the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And as always, make sure you guys follow me on my social media. The links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.